Where do you learn about what's going on in the world?
I don't have social media.
How old are you?
I'm 27. I
Okay.
probably got I got rid of social media around 22, 23. I got rid of everything. I still have LinkedIn, but that's it. I don't really get information from there. I just keep that as a way to at least exist in on the internet. I guess I get a good amount of information from YouTube because I do get on YouTube quite a bit. Just following influencers or people in politics or sports. That's probably my primary source. I've subscribed to some like newsletters in the past, but nothing long term really. I talk with family and friends who have the social media and who actually follow the news. We also don't have any like cable subscription. We don't watch any TV, which I don't know if that's unique or not, but I guess word of mouth and YouTube are primarily the ways I get my information.
I would imagine that you don't come across many arts, or do you, on YouTube? Unless you're specifically searching for it.
I get a lot of information about arts events from our library
Hmm.
newsletters because we're pretty engaged with the library and their events. We also get I get like an email. I'm subscribed to Downtown Mesa's activity newsletter via email, so I get information about that. They do things all the time. They do like a free art Friday once a month where it's family oriented, which is it my engagement with the arts has shifted to family oriented events now that we have our 1.5-year-old. That was a nice event because the community put it on and it was just a bunch of free art vendors, musicians, food trucks for the like family oriented.
Your engagement with the arts has shifted. What was it prior to having a child?
I I would not say I'm arts inclined at all, but I've always been interested and entertained by the arts. I was never personally involved in theater, music, or anything growing up, but I had so many friends who were. So even middle school and high school, I remember I would go to every single musical, play, orchestra concerts, things like that, because I had so many friends in those groups. And I always enjoyed going to shows and things like that. Even art museums are fun. But now that I have a daughter, it's harder to go to things like that where you have to sit and be engaged for a long period of time. It's hard to go to things at night, meaning anything after like 5 or 6 p.m. because of bedtime for her. Even through college, I would go to anything and everything arts related, I would say, just out of entertainment. And I can appreciate the talent that's required because I do not have it. Now that I have her, I'm more geared towards daytime events that are family oriented. Put on by the community is nice because a lot of times those are free or at least free entry, and then you can pay for certain things in the event. But I think that was the shift.
You touched on community events, that they're good because they're free. Does cost prohibit you at all in deciding whether or not you participate, or is it more time, or
Uh,
either?
I would say a little bit of both. There are so many free events around here. Everything here is very congested or populated, however you want to describe it. There's just a lot going on. I would typically tend to go to the free events before paying for an event, but we have paid for admission to events as well. One of my favorite things that our library has is called a culture pass, but you can check out free tickets to certain museums, events, arboretums, botanical gardens, just like you would check out a book from the library, and then you have a week to use that pass. We've done that multiple times for the Phoenix Art Museum, as well as like historical museums, which would cost anywhere from $10 to $30 per person for admission. But because our library offers this program, we're able to get in for free. And it offers, when you check out one of these passes, it's good for two admissions, two tickets. There have been times where we've done that and then we've gone with a larger group and we still patronize the museum, but because of the opportunity to have the 2 free tickets, it encourages us to still go and engage there.
But when you go to check out, I'm curious, are they ever all checked out? Have you ever come into a situation where there aren't any available?
There's one I've been trying to get for over literally a year, like since we moved here. It's more of a botanical garden one, but it's on their list of options. And so I've just been patiently waiting. And if that one's checked out, I'll ask what other options are there. And that's where I have chosen to do the Phoenix Art Museum. I've done that multiple times because that's been available more often and it's great.
The library, then you get information obviously attending. Do you go on their website? Are you getting their emails? And that's how you would hear of events happening in the community?
I get their emails. I hear about I also like go in person to the library. I also hear a lot from my family members.
When you think of the arts, what do you think of? What's your definition?
I broadly just think of categories like museums, musical theater, orchestra, bands, any sort of like entertainment, like visual or audio entertainment events that you could go to.
Do you get exposed or hear about opera or ballet, symphony?
We get mailings for things like that, like certain performances and things that occur downtown Phoenix. We get things in the mail for those. And we have considered going. A couple times the cost has prohibited us from those because there have been ballets where we're like, oh, we'll go. And then we see it's like $60 a ticket. And with the time constraint as well with the little one, we just opt to do something closer to home and cheaper.
What's your earliest memory of art, or anything in particular move you or impact you that as a memory?
Earliest memory, elementary school. In class, they would have parent volunteers bring in actual pieces of artwork. I forget what it was called, but it would be like once a month they would bring in a painting or a portrait and just sit and ask in front of the class and ask for responses or impressions of it. They like worked that into our curriculum in a way. There were also, again, I forget the names of these things. It was elementary school, but they would have every few months like a musical group or a play, some sort of theater group come to the school and just give a performance to promote like a local theater. I always enjoyed that because it was just different it was a change of pace from the classroom setting and pretty entertaining as a kid. Probably like elementary school aged.
Your public school was still offering art.
Oh yeah. That's the only memory. I don't remember any arts necessarily in kindergarten, but first grade on was all public schools, and that's where all of those things happened.
Switching to being a mom, and your daughter will be in school before you know it. How important is it that there is art in school for her?
It's important to me just for the exposure to a variety of fields, just to be more well-rounded. I think that's ultimately the goal with anything that we expose her to in life. We don't want to set her down one path because we assume that she needs to go down this route, but we want her to be exposed to a variety of modalities and fields, and so that she can choose where her God-given talents will lead her.
I talk a lot about STEM and the amount of money and support and programs that government puts into the STEM field, how much higher ed focuses on STEM. And for me, it's not that that's bad or we shouldn't. It's a not equal balance where even when I do work at higher ed, to see the art department is kind of cast to a side. It's a microcosm to what I see in all communities, to where the arts are viewed as frivolous, not foundational. And what I hope is to show that the arts are problem solvers at the end of the day. They solve problems through the medium of music or visual arts or dance. Creatives are always solving problems. And I think I would imagine in your field, even as an engineer, you have to problem solve. You have to be curious and think of new ways of doing it. And I feel that the arts is just fosters that way of thinking. Anything come to mind when you hear me say that?
When I was in third, fourth, and fifth grade, I participated in Destination Imagination. Not sure if you've heard of that, but basically I was on a team of 7. There were 7 of us, elementary school kids. And there's categories you can compete in. We competed in the improv category. And then we would get a prompt when we were at our competition, and we would have to come up with a skit in 30 minutes that incorporated the subject matter, a certain number of facts about the subject matter, and then a certain amount of other requirements. And we prepared all year for this improv category. But the whole point of Destination Imagination was to be creative, work as a team, and problem solve. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm not artistically inclined personally, but I feel like that activity was one of my favorites from growing up, because you didn't have to necessarily be a good actor or actress at the age of 8, 9, 10, but it was more about showing that you could think outside of the box and work as a team. And I think that helped me in the rest of my schooling too, which I did lean more towards the STEM field and STEM classes.
Are you registered to vote?
Yes, I am.
Do you vote?
Yes, I do.
How important is, we talked about art in school, and a lot of times we see funding get cut for arts education or funding for education cut, and a lot of it is applied more toward the science, technology, engineering, and math. Does it matter for you that there's funding for arts education and that that's available?
That's interesting. My general thought is that we spend too much money, or not necessarily too much, but that a lot of money has gone to waste. I'm not sure if I could make a general statement of I think we should spend more or less here or there. I just think we waste so much. And if we focused on where we allocate our resources, we could probably be more efficient and spend money, I don't know, to better enhance society without wasting so much.
If we spent more on prevention, we'd spend less on correction. And I feel that we spend as a society so much on whether it's the prison system or addiction, literacy, aging, dementia, all of these areas where it's been proven time and time again through studies. There was even a study that came out from Europe during the pandemic where they said if you engage in one cultural event, if you go to a museum one time, it's been proven that your life expectancy will lengthen by that engagement.
I'm sure there are ways we should do things differently to prioritize these things that are more important.
Well, I appreciate your time in letting me have the arts be a topic of your Saturday.
Of course. Thank you.
Now, this has been really great and super insightful.